Hi everyone. In this class, we will learn about thrashing and also about least recently used page replacement algorithm. So thrashing is nothing but hope you would have seen my previous video on frame allocation algorithms. And when we learned about frame allocation, we learned about this. We just came across this term of thrashing. So if you want to learn about thrashing, you have to know what is. You have to. Let's consider an example for that. Let's say that let's say that you have a process which does not have enough frames for itself to execute. So let's say you have a process with 5 pages, A, B, C, D, and E, and the pages A, B, and C are residing in the memory, and the pages D and E are residing on the secondary memory. So I've told that this process does not have enough frames. It has only 3 frames, but it needs all its 5 pages for its execution, and all its 3 pages are currently in active execution. So in that case, what will happen is, so initially it needs a D for execution. So what it will do is, it will replace A. Let's say it is making use of local page replacement algorithm. Local page replacement algorithm means whenever it needs a frame, it can remove one of the frames. It can make use of only one of the frames from its own set of allocated frames. Okay, it cannot take away the frames of any other process. That is called local page replacement frame allocation algorithm. So here, whenever it has to move the page D into the memory, it replaces A and brings D into the memory. Okay, then immediately in the next instruction execution, I told you that all the pages are in active execution. So even if the page is replaced, it will be needed again soon. So then in the next instruction execution, immediately A is needed. Now you have brought in D and then you have swapped out A into the secondary memory. Whatever comes after the comma indicates the pages in secondary memory, and before the comma indicates the pages in primary memory. So in order to bring D into memory, A is being swapped out to the disk. But immediately in the next instruction execution, A is needed again. So what will happen? The process will again encounter a page fault. And when it encounters a page fault, it has to bring this A into memory. So for that, it will swap out B into the secondary memory. So it looks like this now. So in order to bring A back, because it is in active execution, it will swap B into the secondary memory and bring A into the primary memory. But then again, all these pages are in immediate execution. So immediately in the next instruction cycle, B is needed again. So what it has to do is, for now there is no space for the pages to bring the page B into the primary memory. So it swaps out C and then brings B into the primary memory. I'll just repeat. Consider a process which contains 5 pages. 3 pages are there in the memory, primary memory, and 2 pages are there in the secondary memory. All these pages are in active execution. This process is in active execution, so it needs all its pages for completing its execution. So, but then it does not have enough frames. That is a very important terminology you have to note. It is not provided with enough frames. If it has 5 pages, it needs 5 frames to complete its execution. So, so what problem arises because of that is, to bring D into memory, it swaps out A. Okay, now A is in the secondary memory and D is in the primary memory. And then, but immediately in the next instruction execution, A is needed again, but A is in the secondary memory. So it tries to bring A into the primary memory. When it brings A into the primary memory, it has to swap out B into the disk. But immediately in the next instruction cycle, this B is needed again. This B which is swapped out to the secondary memory becomes needed again. So then it doesn't have frames to bring this B into the primary memory. So it swaps out C into the secondary memory and brings B into the primary memory. So this goes on and on because it has only 3 frames. It does not have enough frames. So whenever it swaps out a page into the disk, immediately in the next instruction cycle, it may be needed again. For an active process, immediately within the next instruction or next to next instruction, it will be needed again. So consequently, what happens is that this process spends most of its lifetime only doing paging without doing any useful activity. So page fault rate becomes very high. Whenever you don't provide enough frames for a process to complete its execution, the page fault rate of the process becomes very high. What is page fault rate? Page fault is nothing but when the CPU wants to access an instruction in the memory for execution, and if the instruction is not in the memory but in the secondary memory, then a page fault is said to occur. Okay, here whenever it searches for a page, that page is not there in the memory because it is not provided with enough frames. So page fault rate becomes very high, and so the process spends most of its time doing only this swapping in, swapping out activity, that is paging activity, without doing any useful execution. So this form of high paging activity is called as thrashing. Thrashing is said to be a situation in which a process spends most of its lifetime doing only paging activity without doing much of useful execution. So because of this, CPU utilization also becomes very low, because whenever the swapping in and swapping out has to happen, all these processes will be queuing on the paging device, and so there will not be any useful work done on the CPU. So because of this, CPU utilization also becomes very low. So thrashing has very severe consequences on the overall performance of a system. So when we examine the causes of thrashing, consider an example, typical scenario which leads to the cause of thrashing. So initially, let's say CPU utilization is very low. That is, there are no enough processes in the primary memory for keeping the CPU utilization high. So then OS takes note of this, operating system takes note of this, and what it will do is it will try to introduce new processes into the computer's primary memory. When it adds new processes into the computer's primary memory, let's say the OS is making use of global page replacement frame allocation algorithm. What is this global page replacement frame allocation algorithm? We learned about this in the previous class. This global page replacement algorithm is nothing but whenever a frame is required for replacement, a process can take the frame from its own set of allocated frames as well as from the frames allocated to other processes also. That means if P1 needs a frame for execution and it is not available, it can take away the frame of any other currently executing process. That is the meaning of global page replacement frame allocation algorithm. Let's say that is being employed in this example. Then what will happen is the OS has introduced new processes into the computer's memory. Let's say it has introduced 10 processes into the computer's memory. All these 10 processes will, at one point of time, they will enter an active phase of execution. So once they enter an active phase of execution, at one point of time, they will not have frames. So then what will happen is, just like I told you in the previous example, a process needs 5 frames, but if it is given only 3 frames, obviously it has to try getting the frames from other processes. So let's say you have 10 processes in the system. If you follow global page replacement algorithm, then P1 may try to snatch the frame from P2, and P2 may try to snatch the frame from P3. P3 tries to snatch the frame from P4. So P4 encounters a page fault. So at that time, P4 will try to snatch the frame from P5. So all these processes will all be encountering page faults because all of these 10 processes will not be given enough frames for their execution. Okay. So only processes, it is not enough that you introduce more processes into the computer's primary memory. You also have to give sufficient frames for their execution. If you don't give sufficient number of frames for its execution, thrashing is prone to occur. More number of page faults occur, and when more number of page faults occur, they will all be queuing on the paging device. All these 10 processes which encounter page faults, for doing that swap in and swap out operation in paging, they will be queuing on the paging device. So at that time, what will happen? The ready queue becomes empty because all these 10 processes are waiting for the queuing device one after the other. So most of the time, ready queue is empty. So when most of the time ready queue is empty, CPU utilization becomes low. CPU is not utilized because no useful work is getting done. So at this point of time, the OS takes note of the situation, and what it thinks is it feels that there is no enough processes in the primary memory to engage the CPU. So what the OS will do, it will try to again increase the degree of multiprogramming. What is the meaning of increasing the degree of multiprogramming? The number of processes currently in primary memory at any point of time is called degree of multiprogramming. So increasing the degree of multiprogramming means increasing the number of processes in the primary memory. So OS tries to, it thinks that CPU is not having any work. So in order to utilize the CPU, the OS will try to add some more processes into the primary memory. So again, what will happen? The same situation will repeat. These, let's say it adds 10 more processes. Again, these 10 more processes also will do the same thing. They will try to snatch the frames from other processes because they don't have enough frames. So it will lead to page fault. And then they all will be again start queuing on the paging device. So now instead of 10, 20 processes may be queuing on the paging device, or at least 15 processes may be queuing on the paging device. So then CPU utilization becomes less. Again, the OS will think that CPU utilization is less, and it may try to add some more processes into the computer's primary memory. So as a consequence of all this, the page fault rate increases tremendously because all these too many processes are there in the primary memory, depending on the size of the primary memory, but then they have not been provided enough frames. So page fault rate increases tremendously, and it causes a severe performance overhead on the computer system. And no effective work is getting done, and CPU utilization also remains low only. So this is the typical scenario of example of cause of thrashing. So the cause of thrashing in this scenario, from this scenario, you can understand what are the two main causes of thrashing. What had led to the thrashing here? Thrashing is nothing but high paging activity. Doing only paging and not doing any useful execution is called thrashing. So what is the cause of thrashing? There are two causes of thrashing here. Okay, one is increasing the degree of multi-programming. So the OS tried to increase the degree of multi-programming. So just trying to increase the number of processes in the computer's primary memory without giving them enough frames, that is one of the reason. Second reason is not giving enough number of frames to the processes. Okay, so these are the two main reasons for this cause, the crashing which has happened in this example. So you can see from this graph, up to a certain point of time, if we increase the degree of, in the x-axis, we have the degree of multi-programming, and in the y-axis, we have the CPU utilization. Degree of multi-programming means number of processes currently in the computer's primary memory. So up to certain extent, if you increase the number of processes in the primary memory, CPU utilization will increase. But after a certain point, if too many processes are introduced and we don't provide enough frames to the processes, then thrashing starts. Thrashing is nothing but only paging will happen. That is swap in, swap out, swap in, swap out. That happens and no useful work gets done. And CPU utilization decreases drastically. So that is seen in this graph. So how to prevent thrashing? To prevent thrashing, as we saw in the scenario, if you have to prevent thrashing, the first reason for thrashing to occur is the OS didn't provide enough frames to the process. Okay, so we can prevent thrashing if we provide enough number of frames for a process execution. That is one thing. The other way to prevent thrashing is we made use of a global page replacement algorithm there. Global page, because of that only, each process tried to snatch the frames of other processes. That's why any process was not able to complete its execution. Every process was not able to complete its execution. So instead of using global page replacement, we can use local or priority based page replacement, which means in this local page replacement, any process can take away the frames of only from its own set of allocated frames only. If P1 needs a frame, it has to select one of the frames from its own set of pages only, not from the frames of other processes. That's called local page replacement. Priority based page replacement also means that you can give frames to the processes based on their priorities, so that at least high priority processes will be able to complete their execution. That is one way of preventing thrashing. As I told you, thrashing has a very severe consequence on the performance of the system, and so definitely we have to use strategies to avoid thrashing or prevent thrashing. The other method which works successfully to prevent thrashing is called as working set model of process execution, or the locality model of process execution. This locality model of process execution states that whenever a program executes, it moves from one locality to another locality. What do I mean by locality? Locality is nothing but set of pages, active pages used together by a process. Set of active pages used together by a process is called locality. That means, say for example, you have a program. In that program, let's say it has so many components. If a program starts the execution of a function, then it is set to enter that locality for the function. Whenever it processes the variables of the function, local variables of the function, it is set to be in that locality. When it exits the function, the process is set to come out of that locality, move out of that locality. Like that, there may be many segments in the program. Whenever a process executes that particular segment, it may execute a segment containing an array and a segment containing local variable declaration. So every part of the program is said to be one locality. For that part, a set of instructions will be executed together. Okay, so but if you are able to identify in which locality a process will be there, and then we can find out how many pages will be in active execution at any point of time. Okay, if the process is executing a function, it is going to make use of the pages and the instructions associated with the function execution. So with that, we can find out how many instructions are getting executed. Those instructions are in which pages. So at any point of time, how many pages are going to be used by the process. With that, we can predict how many frames are required by the process. Okay, this execution is called locality model of process execution. So here we'll use a parameter called as del. So this notation is called working set parameter. So this working set parameter is set by the operating system. Okay, it can be set to any value. Let's say if what is the meaning of this working set parameter is, if this working set parameter del is set as 5, then at any point of time I will examine the most recent 5 page references. Okay, if del is set as 10, I will examine at any point of time the most recent 10 page references. Okay, the parameter identifies how many pages I'm going to examine. Okay, so this del also will define your working set window. So you will understand with this example. So this is your page references. This is your page reference string. This string is nothing but these numbers indicates the set of all page numbers of the process. Okay, so at time t1, let's say in this example, at time t1, the OS examines the system to identify how many pages are going to be used by the process. Then in this example, we assume that the working set parameter del is 10. So what is the meaning of that? That means at time t1, it will examine the most recent 10 page references. So here I'm examining the most recent these 10 page references. What are the pages which are used frequently? 1, 5, 2, 6. 1, 2, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, so that is the working set at time t1. WS of t1 means the working set at time t1 is consisting of the pages 1, 2, 5, 6 and 7. Note that here the working set parameter del is 10. That means I'm examining the most recent 10 page references. Next, at time t2, let's examine what is the working set. At time t2 also, the OS examines the most recent 10 page references. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It examines the most recent 10 page references. The only 2 pages which are used in this most recent 10 is 3 and 4 only is used. So the working set at time t2 consists of only the pages 3 and 4. Okay. So this is how you find out the working set. Working set is based on the parameter value of del. You find out the most recent page references and put all those pages into your working set. Whatever pages are referenced at that point of time, put all those page numbers into your working set. This is how you find out the working set. Now these are all page numbers. If I need 2 pages, it means at time t2 the process will need 2 frames for its execution. Here there are 5 pages. That means at time t1 this process has to be given 5 pages for its execution. So with that we can identify how many frames are needed by the process. So with that we can formulate an equation like this. So in this equation, WSS of I indicates the working set of a process I. Okay, this is nothing but the summation of working set of that process at different points of time during execution. Okay, the OS periodically at every periodic intervals, the OS will examine the working set of the process. Just like I told you in the previous example, at time t1 the working set consists of 5 pages. At time t2 working set consists of 2 pages. So at different points of time, the working set of the process will be examined and the total number of page requirements will all be added together. That will constitute your sigma of WSSI. WSSI stands for working set size of process I. Okay, and sigma stands for summation. So we add up all the working set requirements of a particular process pi at different points of time during execution. This will give you the total demand for frames for that process. Now we compare this total demand for frames with the number of frames available in the system. Okay, M is the total number of frames available in the system. If the demand for frames exceeds the total number of frames available in the system, obviously it's going to lead to thrashing. We can identify that by calculating this and comparing it with the number of available frames in the memory. So in case if the OS finds out that D is greater than M, it is able to predict that it's going to lead to thrashing. And in such a situation, if there are no enough frames available for the OS to provide to the particular process, what it will do is it will try to suspend or swap out one of the processes from the physical memory. So that is all about how we can use working set model of process execution to prevent thrashing. The next method to prevent thrashing is using page fault frequency. The previous method, that is working set model of process execution, is a successful strategy commonly used to prevent thrashing, but it is a clumsy method because at different points of time we have to keep examining, and it also depends on the value of working set parameter, right? It has to be set correctly. If it is too small, then it will not contain the full locality of the process. If it is too large, then it may overlap multiple localities. So that problem is there in the working set model of process execution. So the another method which is followed to prevent thrashing is by examining the page fault frequency. We all know that when a process encounters more number of page faults, it means it needs more number of frames. We can say the converse also. If a process is encountering less number of page faults, it means it has been given allotted more number of frames than what it requires, right? So that this method makes use of that strategy. What it will do is it will try to examine the page fault rate. Okay, based on the page fault rate, the OS will set an upper bound and lower bound on the page fault rate. Whenever a process page fault rate, whenever the number of page faults of a particular process goes beyond the upper bound, then the OS will try to give additional number of frames to the process. Whenever the number of page faults for a particular process goes beyond the lower bound, it goes below the lower bound, then it means process has been already given too many number of frames, right? So the OS will try to decrease the number of frames. It will try to take away some of the frames already allocated to the process. So this method is called the page. This method is called preventing thrashing by examining the page fault frequency. In case, so here when it becomes greater than the upper bound, the OS has to increase the number of frames, right? So at that time, if the OS does not have enough frames to give to the process, then what it will do is again it will try to suspend or swap out one of the processes to give frames to the existing other processes. So that is all about the concepts of thrashing and how we can use the working set model of process execution and page fault frequency to prevent thrashing. So from this we can conclude that thrashing has severe performance effects on the computer system, and as far as possible it has to be avoided at any cost. So next we will move on to least recently used page replacement. Okay, I have posted videos on first in first out page replacement and the optimal algorithm. The next page replacement algorithm is your least recently used page replacement algorithm. So just as recap, what is the meaning of page replacement is normally pages of a process will be residing on the secondary memory, and whenever they are required for execution, they will be moved to the primary memory. When CPU tries to execute an instruction in the primary memory, and at that point of time, if the page of the process is not there in the primary memory and if it is residing on the disk, a page fault is said to occur. We call it as a page fault. Whenever a page fault occurs, then the OS tries to bring the page from the OS has been informed that the page is not in memory, but the process needs it for execution. And so the OS will try to bring the page from the secondary memory to the primary memory. So in that case, if there are no frames free in the primary memory to bring the desired page from the disk, then only we make use of a page replacement algorithm. So in this so for page replacement algorithm is concerned with which page to select for replacement. Okay. In the least recently used page replacement algorithm, so what is the strategy the page replacement algorithm is going to follow to select one victim frame for replacing to bring the desired page into the from the disk. Okay, in least recently used page replacement algorithm, whenever a frame has to be selected for replacement for swapping out to the disk, the strategy which is followed in LRU page replacement is replace the page that has not been used for the most period of time. Replace the page that has not been used. What is the meaning of has not been used? It's a very important terminology here. Every page replacement algorithm differs from one another only based on this strategy. Now, has not been used means that it makes use of past page references. Okay, it examines the past page references, previous page references, and whichever page has not been used previously for the longest period of time, that page will be replaced. So how are we going to find out the which page is not used for the longest period of time is with each page time of use field is associated, has to be associated by using some hardware help, as well as by using the data structure, page table data structure. And then by using the time of use field, we find out which page has not been used in the past for the longest period of time, and we try to replace that page. Okay, let's see with an example. So just try to look at this example very closely and just try to listen whatever I'm saying. So here, this is our reference string. Reference string contains a set of numbers, and what does this numbers indicate? It indicates the page numbers. This is the numbers of the pages containing the instructions which are referenced by the CPU. Okay, always in lab also you will be implementing this algorithm. These numbers indicate the page numbers containing the instructions which are referenced by the CPU. This indicates the frames in the physical memory. So here in this example, this is our page numbers which are being referenced, and we are assuming that currently 3 frames are only available in the physical memory. Okay, this is pure demand paging. Pure demand paging means the process starts its execution with no pages initially in the physical memory. Okay, so initially all the frames are empty. Okay, initially all the frames are empty. First page reference is 7. So first page reference is 7. 7 is not there in the physical memory. So one page fault occurs. Okay, wherever the boxes are represented, it means a page fault occurs for that page reference. When 7 is being referenced, 7 is not there in the physical memory. So a page fault occurs and 7 is brought into the physical memory. Okay, next page reference is page reference 0. So again, 0 is not there in the physical memory. See this one, 0 is not there in the physical memory. So 0 has to be brought into physical memory. So 0 is not there in the physical memory. So a page fault occurs. Okay, after a page fault occurs, 0 is brought into the physical memory. Okay. Third page reference is page number 1. So page number 1, again see this one. Page number 1 is not there in the primary memory. So page fault occurs and page number 1 is brought into the primary memory. Okay. After 1 is brought into the primary memory, this is how it looks like. Next, page number 2 is referenced by the CPU. Page number 2 is referenced by the CPU, and see here page number 2 is not there in the primary memory. So what happens? Now page number 2 has to be brought into the primary memory, and so the page replacement algorithm, LRU page replacement algorithm, has to select one frame for replacement. How it is going to select? What is the strategy followed here? Replace the page that has not been used for the longest period of time. That means it will examine the past page references. What are the pages in memory? 7, 0 and 1. 1 is referenced and then 0 is referenced. 7 has not been used for the longest period of time. Okay, see the past page references. Whichever comes last, it is the page which has not been used for the longest period of time. Okay, in 7, 0 and 1, 7 has not been used for the longest period of time. So this algorithm will replace the page number 7 with page number 2. Next page reference is 0. 0 is already there in the memory, so there is no page fault. Whenever there is no page fault, don't put this diagram. Don't put that frame structure because 0 is already there in memory. Next page reference is 3. So now again 3 is not there in the physical memory. So what happens? 2, 0 and 1 is there. One of either 2, 0 or 1 has to be replaced. So 0 is there, 2 is there, 1 is there. 1 is not being referenced for the longest period of time. 1 in the past page references, 1 has not been used for the longest period of time. So 1 is replaced with 3 here. Okay. Next page reference is 0. So 0 is already there in memory. So it doesn't generate any page fault. Next page reference is 4. Now the page reference is already there in memories 2, 0 and 3. See the previous page references. So here 0 is referenced, 3 is referenced. The one to be which has not been referenced for the longest period of time is 2. Okay. So 2 is replaced with 4. Next page reference is 2. So again 2 is not there in the memory. The memory currently consists of 4, 0 and 3. See which page has not been referenced for the longest period of time. 4, 0, 3. 3 comes last, which means 3 has not been referenced for the longest period of time. So 3 is replaced with 2 here. Okay. And then next page reference is 3. So 3 is not there in the memory. The memory consists of 4, 0 and 2. 3 is not there in the memory. So which one to replace now? Memory consists of 4, 0 and 2. See when they are referenced. 2, 4 and 0. So 0 is only not used for the longest period of time. In the past page reference, whichever comes last, that is the page which has not been used for the longest period of time. Okay. So 0 is replaced with 3 here. Next page reference is 0. Again 0 is not there in the memory. And memory consists of 4, 3 and 2. See when 4, 3 and 2 is referenced previously. 3, 2, 4. 4 comes last, which means 4 has not been used for the longest period of time. So 4 is replaced with 0. Next page reference is 3. 3 is there in memory. Next to 2, 2 is also there in memory. Next is 1. Now 1 is not there in memory, but the page is already there in memory 0, 3 and 2. See when they are referenced. 2, 3, 0. 0 has been not been used for the longest period of time. That means in normal layman terms, you see the previous page references, whichever comes last, that is the page reference not being used for the longest period of time. Now 0 is being replaced with 1 here. Okay, next comes 2. 2 is already there in memory. Next comes 0. 2 is already there in memory means there won't be any page fault. If it is not there in memory, a page fault occurs. Whenever a page fault occurs, I have represented it with this diagram. Next 0 comes. 0 is not there in memory. Memory currently consists of 1, 3 and 2. Okay, 2 is there, 1 is there, 3 is being referenced last. That means 3 is not being used for the longest period of time. So 3 is replaced with 0 here. And then 1 comes, 1 is already there in memory. Then 7 comes. Okay, 7 is not there in memory. The current memory consists of 1, 0 and 2. So 1, 0, 2. 2 has not been used for the longest period of time. So 2 is replaced with 7 here. Okay. So then next page reference is 0. 0 is already there in memory. And next page reference is 1. 1 is also there in memory. So it doesn't generate any page fault. So if you count the number of page references, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We used the same reference string for the FIFO page replacement algorithm and we got 15 page faults with the FIFO algorithm. So when we use the LRU algorithm, we got only 12 page faults. So from this, we can conclude that it is way better than the FIFO page replacement algorithm. Okay, next is the implementation of LRU algorithm. How to implement it? We have seen that it performs way better than FIFO page replacement algorithm, but not up to that of optimal page replacement algorithm. So there are two ways to implement this LRU algorithm. I told you that we have to keep track of the time of use of every page. Then only we can implement this, right? So how to keep track of the time of use of every page? So there are two ways. One is by using counter and the other is by using stack. In counter, what we do is, along with the page table entry for each page, we also maintain a time of use field. And along with in the CPU, we also maintain the logical clock register. Whenever a page is referenced, the CPU will be incrementing the clock, and the contents of the CPU's clock register will be copied to this time of use field. So in this way, if that value of time of use field is large, it means the page is being referenced for the longest, more number of times. So if the value of time of use field is less, small value, that means the page is not being referenced for the longest period of time, and that will be replaced. Okay. So, but what is the disadvantage of this method is, to time of use field is going to be maintained in the page table, and page table is going to be there in the memory. So for it requires one memory access for every page replacement. Whenever a page has to be replaced, memory has to be accessed, and memory access is a very costly operation. The other one is, to search the page for replacement, we need to search through the entire page table for finding out the finding out the page which has the smallest time of use value. So that is the disadvantage. The other implementation is making a stack implementation, making use of a stack. See here. So here, this is how it is given in the book. They have told that at this point of time, stack will look like this. At this point of time, stack will look like this. But just for your understanding, I have added at different points of time how stack will look like this and how stack will become like this at this point of time. That I have added it here. So in the stack based method, what we will be doing is, whenever a page is referenced, that page will be moved to the top of the stack. Okay, whenever a page is referenced, that page number will be moved to the top of the stack. So in this way, most recent page reference is going to be on the top of the stack, and the least recent page reference is always going to be at the bottom of the stack. Okay, see here, this is our reference string, and so in our textbook, they have given that at this point of time, when 2 and 7 is being referenced here, stack will look like this. So from this, we can find out that the least recently used page is page number 4. Let's see how we come to this situation. So when page number 4 is referenced, it is at the top of the stack. Next, page number 7 is referenced. 7 is at the top of the stack and 4 is at the bottom of the stack. Next, page number 0 is referenced. So 0 is at the top of the stack, and 7 and 4 will be pushed to the bottom next to 0. Okay, next page number 7 is referenced. See, already 7 is there, but 7 is referenced now. So 7 is moved to the top of the stack, and 0 and 4 is moved to the bottom of the stack. Okay, 7 comes up and 0 and 4 comes down. Next, 1 is referenced. So 1 is not there in the stack. So 1 occupies the top of the stack, and 7, 0 and 4 is pushed down to the stack. Next, 0 is referenced. 0 is already there in the stack, but we have to remove it from the middle of the stack and bring it to the top. Okay. So when we bring it, it becomes like this. 0 moves to the top of the stack, and 1, 7 and 4, from their positions, they will be moved one bit to the bottom of the stack. Next page reference is 1. 1 is there in the stack, but 1 has to occupy the top of the stack. So 1 is moved up, and 0, 7, 4 comes to the bottom of the stack. Next page reference is 2. So 2 is not there in the stack. So 2 occupies the top of the stack, and 1, 0 and 4, 7 and 4 will occupy the bottom of the stack. Next page reference is 1. 1 is there, but it has to be moved from this position to the top, and 2 comes down, and then we have 2, 0, 7 and 4 at the next levels. Next page reference is 2. 2 is there, but 2 will be moved to the top of the stack because it's the most recent page reference. So 2 will be moved to the top, and 1, 0, 7 and 4 will occupy next. Next page reference is 7. So 7 is there somewhere in the middle of the stack. It will be removed from the middle of the stack and brought to the top, and 2, 1, 0 and 4 will be in the lower positions next to 7. So from this algorithm, you can easily find out the least recently used page. It's always going to be at the bottom of the stack. But it is expensive algorithm because most recently used page, to find the most, to move the most recently used page, to the top of the stack. It involves accessing an element from the middle of the stack and then moving the most recently used page to the top of the stack. So each update operation is more expensive. Whenever a page is referenced, we have to pull an element from the middle and move it to the top of the stack. So every update operation is very expensive using this method. But whenever a page has to be replaced, finding the least recently used page is very easy because it is always going to be at the bottom of the stack. And we can always use a stack along with a doubly linked list with head and tail pointers to keep track of the elements which has to be moved to the top and also at the bottom. So we can get the element at the bottom of the stack to keep track of the element which has to be page which has to be replaced. And to move the element from the middle of the stack to the top, we can use the doubly linked list and we can change the pointers of the doubly linked list to move the elements. So that is how we can implement the LRU algorithm by using counter as well as by stack. So that's all with the contents of today's lecture.